Precious Cornerstone University?
Precious Cornerstone University.
Precious Cornerstone University.
I want to welcome all participants from various parts of the world to this webinar series. Particularly, I want to welcome members of staff and students from Precious Cornerstone University, Ibadan, Nigeria, members of staff and students from Adeleke University, Ede, Nigeria, members of staff and students from Scrivener University, Texas, United States of America, members of staff and students from Binary University of Management and Entrepreneurship, Malaysia, and members of staff and students from University Utra, Malaysia. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you all, depending on whichever time zone you are. I would like to personally welcome you all to Precious Cornerstone University, Ibadan, Oyo State, Nigeria. And we have tagged our university the best setter of the nation. Here at Precious Cornerstone University, we are devoted to attracting top academics and professionals around the world to help usher our students into the 21st century by equipping them with knowledge, skills, and ethics that will lead us all into the new age. We achieve this through the provision of excellent education in a conducive environment. Our facilities are engaged in research, teaching, and extramural activities that push the boundaries of human knowledge. Our students are made up of intelligent and talented knowledge seekers across economic, geographic, religious, linguistic, and cultural diversity. Precious Cornerstone University offers courses and programs leading to officially recognized higher education degrees in several areas of study. I'm not just a Vice Chancellor of Precious Cornerstone University. I'm also an inventor and entrepreneur. By the grace of God, we have an immune booster known as Trino IB, which we have been marketing since 2007, and we are currently doing animal trial for our COVID-19 vaccine. It is my dream as an innovator and Vice Chancellor of Precious Cornerstone University to instill within our students the innovative and entrepreneurial spirit. We live in a rapidly changing world where the needs of yesterday becomes obsolete today and the needs of tomorrow are not exactly known today. So, how do we equip and prepare our students for an unknown and world of tomorrow? We achieve this by taking them and training them to be thinkers, innovators, inventors, to be able to study the market needs and offer quick and efficient solutions, and to surpass limits we could only dream of attaining. Even before our students graduate, we expect most of them to set up their own businesses. Since PCU is a faith-based university, we also develop the spiritual life of our students so that they will be able to handle issues of life maturely and become upstanding citizens and role models in the society. We recognize the devastation of the dreaded COVID-19 virus that has brought evil upon the human race. And at this juncture, I would like to extend my condolences to all who have lost loved ones, friends, colleagues, leaders, and members of their society across the globe as a result of COVID-19 infection. It is just too good to also commend the frontline medical and security personnel that have been putting their lives on edge to protect humanity against the dreaded virus. Hence, we encourage everyone to strictly comply with the standard operating procedure of COVID-19. As we host this webinar series, we look forward to meeting and discussing the impact of COVID-19 on learning and life as we know it. Is this the dawn of a new era? I would like to commend the effort of the organizers of this webinar series, led by Dr. Okere Prince Hector, who is in charge of our Center of Technological Advancement and International Collaboration. I also want to appreciate the panelists in person of Dr. Usama Sahola, who is an international senior lecturer at University Utara, Malaysia. Dr. Osaro Aibogun is a senior lecturer and program leader at Binary University of Management and Entrepreneurship, Malaysia. Dr. Jimmy Awokola is the director of Center for Software Engineering, Data Mining and Robotics at Precious Cornerstone University, Ibadan, Nigeria. Dr. Anyankule Taiwo is an assistant professor, computer and information technology, Scrivener University, Texas, USA. And Dr. Oladipo Elijah Kolawole is a lecturer at Adeleke University, Ede, Nigeria. I also deeply appreciate every registered participant of this webinar. I thank you all very much for taking time and effort to be part of this webinar. God bless you all. Thank you.
They got their money back, at least some half of their money back. So that actually affected the income for the college, and as a result, towards the middle of the year, you have a lot of agents and those that were looking towards tenure. Um, the assurance of being tenured was not there anymore. So we have that impact on the academic end. Now, for the work aspect of it, because most of the schools, including elementary, middle school, and high school, because they also went online, what we had to do is that you find out that most people are working from home, and at the same time, they have to, literally guide their children. Um, with their homework. It's like you become the second teacher for your children at home,
That's right.
and that impacted a lot of family. I would say some positively, but negatively. It actually created a challenge at home, at the home front, and there were or let me say, increases in, how shall I say, a little bit of domestic violence at home, because frustrations were carried out. People that lost their job, there was frustration on the children, frustration on partners, frustration on spouses. Um, so you have that challenge at the home front also, and a lot of people were not used to wearing the mask, the face mask. Um, and now part of the requirement is that you should wear the face mask, and so So you have some resistance in wearing the face mask, some resistance in not wearing the face mask. But in a nutshell, for me to conclude, I would say uh, for the way people responded to it, like our example here at China University, is that our experience rather at China University is that we do not have a single positive case of COVID-19 on campus, not a single one. And why is that? Because what we did basically was just to um, follow the CDC guidelines strictly. And once we did that, we moved our classes online. Um, and then we do testing almost every week. And we keep the social distance. And and we don't even have a single case so far yet. We have people that that were impacted in the sense that maybe they were in close proximity with someone that tested positive. They go into quarantine, and after 2 weeks, they're out of quarantine, but they never actually tested positive. So that's the case that we have here at China University
All
in
right.
Texas. Thank
All
you very
right.
much.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for that. So we'll be going over to Dr. Osama. Dr. Osama, I would want you to shed some light from your own perspective as well.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Hector. I'm very happy being with you this evening, at least in Malaysian time. We are in the evening. Thank you so much for Precious Cornerstone University and to Dr. Hector for this invitation.
Welcome, sir.
I do feel like when it comes to the statistics and the challenges and whether in the pre-era or within COVID-19 era or the post-COVID-19 era, when we look to the differences between continents, I do feel like Africa is having more challenges, but at the same time having more opportunities to change. So there are pros and cons of COVID-19 hitting a lot of countries. And to be more, optimistic in thinking positively, we have to take this as a chance. What have COVID-19 imposed on us to change? All right. In addition to what the previous speaker said about the main challenges faced, there are a lot of challenges, similar between countries. I will touch on two main countries, my origin country, which is Algeria, and on Malaysia, where I'm living now. Actually, in the main challenges, the COVID-19 have touched a lot of, or all parts of our lives, the social parts, the economical parts, the political parts even, and when it comes to the education, it's the main part of it. If you allow me to share only one slide on the chronology of the COVID-19.
Okay.
Is it okay, Dr. Richter?
Sure.
Understanding the chronology is very important to understand the impact of COVID-19 on various parts of our lives.
Okay. Proceed.
Can I? I cannot share, unfortunately.
All right. I think you can now.
All right, that's great. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Is it clear?
You can.
Okay, I will make it quick, actually. I will make it quick. And this is one of the advantages of COVID-19 and remote learning. Do not share a lot of information in your slides and don't make the sessions boring. This is one of the advantages of COVID-19, in remote learning. When we look to the chronology of lockdown in both countries, in Malaysia and Algeria, there are some differences, but there are a lot of similarities. Like when COVID-19 hit in 2000, the late of 2019 in China, then the virus spread all over the world. Malaysia have taken a very what we call restricted procedure to face this pandemic. If I may compare between Malaysia and Algeria, Malaysia was more ready to face this pandemic due to the strong infrastructure and infrastructure. So Malaysia have started, fighting this pandemic starting from March 2020. Algeria started earlier, February 2020, but the mechanism and the techniques are different. So Malaysia started with what we call it Malaysian Movement Control Order, then enhanced Movement Control Order. Then they have to come to the conditional one, then they have to come to the recovery one. Why I come to discuss all this chronology? Each time and each month, there is a new SOPs, there is a new control order, whether in Algeria and Malaysia, there is the impact, it's differ between month to month. If I may focus on education, the impact of COVID-19 on education in Malaysia was clear and there. At the beginning, there was, the Ministry of Higher Education, they stopped face-to-face classes. Stopping face-to-face classes in all levels, from elementary school to the higher education level. If I focus on higher education level, stopping face-to-face classes has a lot of impact on the quality of learning and teaching. It's have effect on lecturers and effect on students as well, because we were requested by the school and the university to, before we run the classes, because COVID-19 hit at the middle of last semester. So we had half of the semester face-to-face classes. Immediately, we were surprised by COVID-19. Immediately, we have to stop the classes. Everyone should, lock down in the campus or lock down at home. So the main challenge is by student. This caused a lot of issues, and students like anxiety, for example, and like stress. And because the input and output and the process of face-to-face classes is not the same of remote learning. The second challenge is this. If we look here to the infrastructure and infrastructure of all sectors, but I will focus on education sector. Initially, Malaysia in education sector, in higher education sector, was initially ready, but a lot of enhancement needed to face this pandemic. Because when you talk about online learning and remote learning, you need a good quality of internet, you need a good online learning platforms, you need a good communication with your students as well. In Algeria, the scenario was different. Algeria, in terms of infrastructure was totally not ready in the higher education sector, because stopping face-to-face classes and starting remote classes, I'm talking this problem happening in all African countries, but particularly Algeria, the access to internet was difficult by many students, majority of students. The strength of internet was very low. And the most important thing that the challenge faced in Algeria was the online platforms, universities' online platforms for students was not ready at all. Only few students were ready. In Malaysia, the scenario, as Dr. Hector knows, online learning platforms are there. So only universities in Malaysia need to adapt with the situation only. Adapt in terms of what? Restructuring the curriculum, restructuring the teaching and learning methods. And the most important thing in this process is the evaluation and assessment method of student. In face-to-face assessment is different than remote learning assessment. Student and lecturers are part of life as well. So as the previous, I'd like to thank him for the point he shared. to convince people of wearing masks, following the SOPs, and following the rules and regulations, it's very difficult as well. To prevent campus from not being affected highly by COVID-19.
Okay. Okay.
Hopefully I have touched some, but I'm waiting for more questions to share more, inshallah.
All right, no problem. We'll get back to the question and answering in time. So now, in order to, because we have a lot of things we would want to touch up on, so I would want each speaker to minimize each of their answers to 3 minutes max. Okay. So, Dr. Osaru, do you have anything to add to that?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Dr. Hector. You've done a great job. And I want to say top of the hour to everybody. It's evening here. It's about 8 p.m. in Malaysia. The previous speakers have spoken very well. And in a number of points they made, they actually mirrored my opinions.
Okay.
But one thing we need to know, I will just try to stick to 3 minutes, okay, and say things perhaps they didn't touch on. But one thing we need to know is we need to conceptualize this COVID-19 pandemic. And in the crisis management paradigm, we look at it as a HILP event. That is a high impact but low probability event. What it means is that this is a kind of event that has a very low chance of happening in our lifetime, okay, but the impact is very high. Okay, and it caught a lot of people unawares. You can find out from a lot of businesses around the world, right? The education industry and all of the industries were caught unawares. And the reason for this is because we were used to the traditional way of managing crisis. A crisis comes, we learn about the crisis, then we adapt crisis management strategies. However, I think the world has learned a big lesson for us to be more proactive in managing crisis. And Dr. Kunle will agree with me that this is very important because, I was listening to Al Jazeera news during the lockdown last year, and they were tending to correlate the prevalence rate of COVID-19 with the form of government of a country. And this is what they found out. And I think it's an avenue for research to be carried out. They found out that countries that were more democratic, meaning they leaned more towards the left, seem to have more, incidence rate for COVID-19 infection as compared to other countries that lean more towards the right. And I tend to agree with it because when you allow people freedom in a situation that has not been known before, then there is bound to be chaos. Okay. And the numbers speak for itself. Yeah, the numbers speak for itself. Okay, Dr. Osama has talked a lot about Malaysia. I will just add some few things. And then also the education industry, then that will be it. You will find out that Malaysia is a technological driven country, highly driven by technology. And so there was no big deal in transitioning to online learning. But the challenges faced were in form of character of the people and of the process. I will give a typical example. Where I work, where I teach, we've got students from about 60 different countries. And we had a lot of the students back home in their country. This happened during the break. We had a lot of cohorts who had traveled back on holidays. And there was a movement control order, and the airports were closed. And many of these people could not come back. So, like I said earlier on, it's a technological driven place. So online learning wasn't a new thing. And so we had to start online classes. But here is what we found out. When we have a class, for example, a certain lecturer, not myself, I was fortunate not to have this issue. But okay, an example was a Nigerian student who had to wake up 2:45 a.m. to receive his lectures. And that's because we had issues with the time zones. We had some countries in the afternoon, we are in the morning, some are at night. In Nigeria, 2:45 a.m. So you see that challenge in transitioning from the ease of receiving a lecture in the comfort of the morning time to or afternoon time to something of that nature, 3 a.m. That was a huge challenge, and that had to call character into bearing. I mean, character from the lecturer and also from the student. We could talk about this later on. I mean, we could elaborate more about this later on, but this whole issue affected academic integrity.
Okay.
And that this was a new thing.
Okay.
Although the tools were there, but hands-on on the tools was new for many of us. And so, for example, we're having a lecture and perhaps the student's video is turned off. You don't know what the student is doing.
True.
And many times you require feedback, non-verbal feedback, to be able to, get everybody going along. I'll give you a typical example and I would end with this. Okay, so I was in the examination panel for a master's Viva, okay?
Okay.
And there were about 4 students that day. And one of the students was from another country in Central Asia. I wouldn't want to mention the name for obvious reasons. Okay, so it was his turn to present to the examining panel.
Okay.
And and we asked him, take it off and you can present. His slides were there and everything, but he said he's in the hospital. The standard operating procedures were that you must always be with your nose mask. And we said, you are in a private room, you could take it off. He insisted that it was the SOPs in his country, whether you're indoors or outdoors. And we said, okay, you can go ahead and present. And he was presenting. And along the presentation, we started receiving text messages from some of his colleagues and saying that, and the text messages were like, this student is presenting very well. We know him in class, he's not this good. He's so fluent and something is wrong. Okay, I'm just going to cut it short. So he put on the nose mask and someone else was talking in the background and responding to our questions. I mean, that was the end result of our investigation. And so you can imagine the height to which academic integrity can be affected by this COVID-19 pandemic. I've got a lot to say, but I will stop now so that we could get the views from other panelists. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much for that. So yes, one thing we can highlight from all that has been shared so far, COVID-19 did take the whole world by surprise. So how different people were able to adapt to react to the incident differently based on their technological status at the time the pandemic hit the world. And as Dr. Osama rightly outlined, places like Malaysia, where I happened to be at the time the pandemic hit, Malaysia already has an infrastructure that already allows for distance learning and all whatnot. Okay, and compared to Africa, where so basically what happened there during that time, distance learning became a thing. Distance learning wasn't as popular prior to the pandemic, but it became the real deal during the pandemic and I believe moving forward as well. So I would like to share a slide with everyone on, okay, quickly so that we can just get some facts in. So this was a study conducted by EdTech e-learning Africa, the effect of COVID-19 on education in Africa. So I'll just run through. So this was how it hit Africa. It is estimated that over 1.5 billion learners had their classes disrupted and are confined to their homes. So alternative learning solutions became top priority to both stakeholders and governments. So almost universal closures of academic institutions at about 97% of academic institutions, according to these findings, were shut down. And now what happened in Africa, like I earlier mentioned, the state of their technological advancement had a role to play on how they reacted to it. So there was lack of access to technology. In some parts of Africa, electricity, following the closures of these academic institutions. And the rural communities and early primary, so they were mostly at the disadvantage. For primary school students, a lot of African countries like Zambia, Ghana, they resorted to radio and TV to illustrate, to continue the teaching. But for tertiary institution where you get to do computer labs, hands-on learning, laboratory, and experiment, it became difficult. So, like in Malaysia, the faculties, like in computer science, they are all equipped with fully functional computer labs, where even if as a student you do not have your own personal computer, you can still survive in the environment. So with distant learning, on the other hand, it became a challenge. So now you come to a country where it's a continent where technology is not that advanced. It became a challenge for them to react quickly, because during the lockdown, an entire year of lockdown, I still had colleagues that went on with their studies and still graduated on time, on schedule, because their studies quickly moved into distance learning, online platform. Whereas somewhere like here in Nigeria, education had to come to a complete standstill up until recently. So I will just give Dr. Awukola 1 minute if he has anything else to add. Then we'll move to the next subject. Over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hector. It's been a wonderful session, and I want to thank every other facilitator for what they said so far. Well, because I just have a minute, I don't think I can make any immense contribution in 1 minute. So I would just like to corroborate what every other person has said. And basically, Africa was caught unawares. That's just the truth. We were not infrastructurally ready. We were not technologically ready for the pandemic. And of course, that created a few issues. While a few people tried to be proactive, but the truth of the matter was that a lot was left hanging during the pandemic. But what my conclusion is that the pandemic is a wake-up call for Africa to do more in the area of technology. By technology, we are looking at a holistic thing, end-to-end, both in the area of the infrastructure, that is the hardware, as well as in the area of capacity, that is making sure that not only is the technology, the hardware, the networks, the servers, not only are they readily available and accessible, but we need to up the skills of the average person in the educational sector, in the financial service sector, to be able to use these technologies appropriately. Because the truth of the matter is that even though the pandemic brought it to life, but we are actually in a new normal. It's really the dawn of a new era. A lot of things have actually come to stay, and it will be wise for us to be proactive and to stay on this lane. All right, thank you, Dr. Hector.
Thank you very much for that. So we will go quickly to the next question. The roles of family, communities, and individuals as allies and facilitators to learning and in the battle against to learning during this era of COVID-19. So before I go over to Dr. Oladipo, I will just want a one minute response from every member of the panel before we go to Dr. Oladipo. So what is the role of a community, of a country, of a government, of a people and an individual during this period of COVID-19 and in learning and life as we know it? So, Dr. Osaru.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Hector. I will just make a sweeping response to this, and it's going to be in the light of responsible behaviors. First of all, everybody, whether you're the family or a community, you need to adopt responsible behaviors. And the reason for this is that we all require the next person to be responsible in their behaviors for us to survive. Yes. Most importantly, the reports in countries who take statistics have shown that mental health issues have gone up this period. And in fact, if we were to be have statistics about students made available to us, we'll find out that it's a big issue with students, because some students actually rely on interactions to stay mentally okay. But now when you sit behind your computer like a couch potato from morning till evening, trying to receive lectures without interactions. When I say interactions, I mean face-to-face interactions. That can be a very big challenge to mental health. So this calls on everybody to look out for the other. First of all, by adopting socially responsible behaviors with the SOPs, and also, to adopt lifestyles that go beyond ourselves and we look out for the next person. But most importantly, COVID-19 is a wake-up call, just like what Dr. Jimmy said, for tomorrow. This is not going to be the last, sadly. Don't let anybody deceive you. That's going to be the last. It's not going to be the last. Okay, so today is the time to prepare for tomorrow. And like this popular Chinese proverbs says that the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is now. So the best time to have avoided COVID-19 was a long time ago, but we failed in that. So the next time is now. We need to plan for tomorrow. Those that will survive this tomorrow are those that have started to plan today. Okay, thank you very much.
Wow, that was beautiful. Thank you very much for that. Dr. Katie, Dr. Kule Taiwo, do you have anything to add to that? 30 seconds, tops.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Saro and Dr. Hector. What I have to add to that is I'm beginning to I'll be looking at it from the perspective of the faculty. It's just going to be a question to all educators, that everyone has their belief system, their belief structure, things that they believe in, and sometimes the reality and the fact on ground sometimes does not agree with that belief structure, and then we have to be very careful. And I'm going to corroborate what Dr. Cyrus said. We just have to be responsible in our reaction, the way we do things. And here in the US, you've got some people that that you've got their belief system in terms of freedom. Like the government does not have to tell me this. You can't tell me to do this. You can't force me to do this. I don't believe in it. You're working against my freedom. However, if we are not very careful, it's going to we're not going to be very responsible when we're actually trying to pass across knowledge to our students in carrying out, because you've got those debates going on. So I'd just like to say for educators, we have to be very careful, and for us to be responsible in carrying out our duties, sharing information with students. Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I just want to highlight something these two speak panelists have highlighted. Dr. Osaro clearly mentioned that we need the next person to be responsible in order for us to survive. Surviving COVID is not a solo race. It's a communal. We have to do it together. So no matter how responsible I think I am or I have been, if the next person is irresponsible, his actions affect me. And he also outlined something else, that countries that are more democratical and liberal, just as Dr. Kuletai will also outlined, the ultimate liberal country is the United States of America. Compare it against countries that are not so democratic, like China, okay? So when the government says, stay at home, everybody stays at home. When the government says, wear your mask, everybody wears their mask. And failure to do that, you have lost your right to, to what do they call it? Human right. So the government takes actions against you, and no one would question the authority or so the actions, as a government, as a people, everyone gets to play the role. So now I would now come to Dr. Oladipo Kolawale. Okay. Before I get to Dr. Oladipo, I want Dr. Jimmy to add to that if there is any new information he'd want to add to that.
All right, thank you, Dr. Hector. A lot has been said, and I would just like to say something. Now, well, I want to talk from the context of Africa, because really the COVID-19, like I said the other time, is the biggest highlight for me. Was a big wake-up call for Africa. It really showed to us how unprepared we have been. So I will just give about 3 points on what I would call the way to go as individuals in the light of the pandemic. The first thing is that everybody must commit to lifelong learning. Everybody must be committed to lifelong learning. The truth of the matter is that we are living in the world of the 3 C's, according to Dr. Dennis Whitley. It's an era of change, complexity, and competition. And if the truth be told, the way to always stay on top of the game is to be committed to learning. There's nothing you would not be able to grapple with if you are a committed lifelong learner. But the bane of the black man is, they say that if you want to hide anything from a black man, put it in a book, because the black man will not bother to read. So I would like to challenge that everybody who wants to stay afloat in this era must be committed to lifelong learning. That is, you must be a student of what is happening. You must always be abreast of the recent trend of things. Take courses, learn, read. All of that is going to help. Another thing is that everybody must learn to think globally and act locally. How do I mean? We must look at what is happening all around the world. Then we must look at our environment. Then we must find pockets of how we can adopt global best practices within the confines of our own localized context. That is important. Then the third and the final point is that everybody must increase their appetite for technology and innovation. Everybody must increase their appetite for technology and innovation, because one of the things that made the world to a large extent survive COVID-19 is adopting technology in everything. There are things that you don't necessarily have to do as a person. Like, let me give you an example. In the course of the last week, I've had to do a lot of things. I needed people to do some things for me. But I began to think to myself, do I need to go there? For example, I needed someone to produce some documents for me, and I needed those documents for a meeting back at the office. So what did I do? I chatted up the person. I said, you know what? I need to produce these documents for me in this particular order. I said, can I mail it to you? He said, of course. So I mailed it to him. I'm talking, because these things are not common around here. I said, okay, all right. So I mailed it to him. I explained to him I was going to print them. I was going to collate and bind the document. And I said, as soon as you are done, let me know how much it costs. So he sent me the bill. I made a transfer to him. That's technology. Then I began to think, must I drive all the way down to this guy's place to get it done? Then it dawned on me that delivery companies, there are companies that are into logistics. They pick things up for you from any location, deliver to any location at a very fair price. And then I just said, okay, hold on. I talked to one of them, they picked it up and delivered to me. So I'm saying all of this to say that everybody must be more technologically inclined in everything they do.
So inadvertently, you're saying in order to survive and thrive in the future, self-development is key. Wonderful.
It's very paramount.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I left Dr. Oladipo Kolawole as the last panelist to speak, obviously because of how much he would have to offer to us. So Dr. Kolawole is a specialist in medical virology, immunology, and bioinformatics. And he's the team leader, founder and CEO of Helix Biogen Consult of Omosho, Oyo State here. So his team are working on a research that developed one of the listed COVID-19 vaccines recognized by WHO. So he will shed more light on the medical aspect. So far we've had our academics talk more on the learning aspect, the academic aspect. So he's also a lecturer as well. So he would be able to match both the medical aspect and the academic aspect as well. So Dr. Oladipo, COVID-19, we have seen it everywhere else in the world. The impact is real. Okay, it's real. But here in Africa, most of us, an average African sees COVID-19 as more political than biological. I don't know if you catch my drift. So because
you're right.
An average Nigerian or an average African do not think COVID-19 is real. Okay, so I would want you to shed light on that. You have the floor now.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Hector, for the privilege given to me to speak, and for the panelists that have been talking, Dr. Susanna Asala, Dr. Kunle K.I.T. Taiwo, Dr. Jimmy. It's a privilege to be on this platform. Actually, COVID-19 has really made us to understand some basic truth, that things cannot be run the way it has been done before. We can see how the educational system have changed, even in countries that do not prepare for it. The countries that are prepared for it, they were forced to use it more than before. We see the use of online interaction, and actually I've said what problem they face in Nigeria is what majority of other countries are facing. I can recollect vividly that there was a webinar we organized by some presenters from India. They are also facing the same problem. A lot of students do not have access to the internet. A lot of students do not have a smartphone or laptop that will enable them to connect. Even most of the staff, the teachers that are teaching, they are using their personal money to load the card. It's even better. Malaysia is better because the internet is even more stable there. You discover that a lot of challenges are coming up, though we are yet to rest the challenge because the system is still the way it is. Nothing has improved. So we have to learn from what has happened to us. And you can still see that some people are adamant in terms of lecturers. They don't want to change. And there is something that remains constant in this life. It is change.
That's right.
It is change. We have to develop new techniques of teaching. There are a lot of virtual practicals. There are a lot of simulations that even when you are not in the real lab, you can be able to perform the practical. So we have to go with the modern way of teaching. So it still means in our place of work as a lecturer, there should be reorientation, retraining for the lecturers to allow them to use all these tools that we're talking about. Zoom became popular even for COVID-19. And we are using Teams. And people are using Teams. So, and even me personally, I'm not comfortable with Zoom and Teams. Each university should be able to have their own platform that is unique for their training in their school, in which their students can key into it, instead of using this universal one. That's where we should be thinking. That's where we should move on, so that we get to design it based on their own nature in their school, based on the curriculum, and we say that things will be more better than what we have now. I just want to chip in on the project at hand. It's a product of hard work, and I want to thank Professor J.K. Uluke, the Vice Chancellor of Precious Cornerstone, for the role he has played in this project. I want to thank his lab, Trinity Immunization Laboratory, for the role he has played. I'm telling you, this is one of the fantastic projects we have in this country, because this project is multi-institutional. We have a lot of team leaders that are from different institutions. So it's not just a single university that is coming. We have from Adeleke University, we have from Elisade University, we have from Lagos State University, we have from University of Ilorin. A lot of them like that coming up together. And to be candid to you, we have Nigerians in diaspora that are part of the team that have also contributed positively to this work. And what we felt that studies have shown there is a virus called rotaviruses that causes gastroenteritis. There is a vaccine for it. And studies have shown that the efficacy of the vaccine is lower in Africa compared to the Europe.
Okay.
So those are the things that spawned our interest then. That there is tendency that even if you leave this work to the Western world, the vaccine that they may develop may not be as effective as the one that is developed from the circulating strains that we have in Africa. Maybe because I work on influenza virus, I've been working on respiratory viruses. I know that influenza virus does not have a specific vaccine. It is being updated yearly, and we foresee that is what will likely happen for COVID-19. So if we don't do it now, get the technology. When there is need for us to update, we have to be waiting for the Western world before we update our own. And how long can we be waiting? That's why we take it up as a responsibility to develop something. And what we did was very simple, because we used the latest technology that they too are using. We call it reverse immunology. So far the sequences are available. We get into the database and started something out very fantastic. I can tell you that is a work of 4 months. And people that work on the project, they are 40 in number. But there's one bitter truth that people don't know. Is there about to get the vaccine? We have undergraduate students, the internship, the IT that work on it. We are still building capacity for Africa. Not so that when a time we come, we will not be there again. Those students that we have trained will take up the lead and push up the work and move further. Because when you do things and you don't build capacity, it will last longer. So, which is part of it. And we are very glad that our candidates met the WHO criteria. We didn't go to them. They heard about us. They communicated with us. They requested for scientific information. We provided. And to our surprise too, we were listed, making Nigeria and Egypt to be part of the candidate that is listed. You know, the only challenge that we have is that funding has been a major challenge. If we have received enough funding from appropriate quarter, the speed will not be at what we have now. We have moved faster, but we are just doing the funding by ourselves, looking for. I have some of the members that have collected loan in order to fund the work, because you know in Africa, funding of research and development is very poor. People don't want to put money into research and development, and a research when you're doing a research for product development, it's quite different from what you are doing for what I call it just ordinary thesis to get it published, and that's the end of the day. But there's something that we did like 3 weeks ago in my lab. I said, let's get the circulating strains, the new ones, the new mutant. Let's see how our construct will be able to cover for it. And very, very interesting, our construct cover for 70% for that strain, the new one. So it's something of a joy that we are actually making contribution. We are not after money. We are just after making scientific contribution from the African perspective. And let's see what we can do in order to improve our life, in order to improve what we have at hand. You can, if you are very conversant with the news, it's covered that the vaccine they are using in South Africa, they have stopped it because it doesn't cover for the new variant that is circulating. If you look at Oxford is going back now to update the current candidate that they had.
So the
before
virus is
in order to make it more effective. And yeah, the virus is mutating. RNA virus mutates generally, and that's the challenge we have. You can't rule it out because the replication cycle it has in individual is different. If a normal person, the virus, the way the mechanism, the way the virus will replicate is different from when it's replicating somebody that has HIV. The host has a role to play in it because it doesn't have when the error is made compared to DNA virus, it doesn't have a proofread mechanism that can correct the error. So, and some of the time, the mutation could be interesting. It could lose virulency. But what we have now is that the mutation has more affinity to ACE2, which is angiotensin converting enzyme 2, which is the receptor on the lungs for the virus. So that's why we have more transmission of the virus. They has more high transmissibility rate now than what we have before. And it's not surprising. That's what RNA does. That's why you see influenza, you see respiratory syncytial virus, you see HIV. They are all RNA virus. That's one of their characteristics of mutation. Is one of their characteristics. And I'm telling you the fact, yet are still coming. A lot of mutants are still coming.
okay.
Because the way our hosts respond to these diseases are different. You can see that we are not recording high mortality rate here compared to what we record over there, because our host genomes, the genomic composition of each host has a role to play. What we have been exposed to previously has a role to play. So I don't want to talk much on our candidates.
I want you to expand on that, because if you say the host has a role to play, are you saying that we as Africans, what is it that we have in our gene or DNA or bloodstream or whatever it is that makes that makes us more, less susceptible? Because if you want to look at the metrics of readiness of COVID-19, Africa is not ready. It was forecasted that by Bill Gates and I think his spouse as well, that Africa will be a sea of dead bodies. That because we are not technologically advanced, nor are we medically ready. But the forecast was that people will be dying in millions in Africa, but that has not been the case. So I want you to add that into your response. Why is it? What is it about our DNA, our gene that has made the statistics that we are seeing to be so? Over there in the West, is it the temperature? Is it what is it?
Well, I cannot talk emphatically because as a scientist, you have to talk with a good scientific evidences.
Okay.
But there is a likely suggestions, likely factors.
Okay.
Let's look at it in a very simple way. We are used to malaria.
Okay. They share similar symptoms, yeah?
When we are used to malaria. If we are being infected by malaria, there is a level of the parasitemia we can cope with. Compare somebody that's from US.
Okay.
You discover that their own genetic makeup is quite different from our own genetic makeup. There are some disease is peculiar to us here. They call it tropical diseases. There are some diseases that is peculiar to them over there. Like you have said that the environment has a role to play. When we look at a disease, you look at it holistically, not from an angle. There are a lot of angles to it. Some environmental factors are there. Diet is there. Our genetic makeup is there. There is a professor from Unilorin, Professor Kolawole. He has once reported that there is antibody to SARS-CoV-1 in the country. And funny thing about science is that it's only what you look for that you find.
True.
So something might be existing, but because you are not looking for it, you didn't find it, or by chance you just come across it.
Okay.
So looking at the human genetics composition of Africa, studies are still ongoing to actually know what are the responsible for us able to cope. We discovered that majority of people that have died here have one or two other complications. Maybe they have one underlying health disease in which it has compromised their immune status. So that's why you said the role of immunity has a role to play in this. But for now, there is no scientific evidences to show You see, there's one of our paper that we published in early parts of this COVID-19 that we read that a call for funding from Africa. See, we should not wait for the Western world to come and fund our research. They only fund research that will be applicable to their country over there. So Africans should rise up and fund the research. They are able to solve their own local solution. You can't allow them to collect their tax money and come and give us here to solve our problem. It's not done anywhere. They are not full.
True. True.
So we should encourage our private sector, even the research of COVID-19 we are talking about. Look at other people that are driving it outside the country. It's not government, it's private. It's going to get a stage before the government comes in. So we have to encourage our private sector, as the way they invest in shows, they do musical shows that they give people money, all those things. Let's encourage those who sign.
Hello, Dr. Oladipo, are you still with us? Okay. I think his network is having issues. So I would go to the next question for our panelists. During the era of the pandemic, there has been an uproar of social injustices in America, in Nigeria, some part of Middle East. If you look at the Black Lives Matter campaign, if you look at the NSAS campaign, you know, these are social injustices that has, during the pandemic, grew into large proportions. So what role did technology play? And what role as an educator or as an instructor teaching the younger generations that would be the active society members or leaders of tomorrow? What role do academia play in during and post COVID era? So I would want to start with Dr. Osama to give us an input or two on the subject.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Hector. Actually, you have raised a very, very sensitive question or point when we talk about social injustice. You know, social injustice, even though we are in the 21st century, but still exists, unfortunately, exists everywhere. But the good part now, we have social media. If you go to 10, 15 years back, whatever happened related to social injustice or other issues rather than social injustice, whether government or any respective departments or individuals, they can cover what they are doing easily. But nowadays, things are different. Any individual is holding a phone in his hand, I can consider him as a journalist. You know why? Simply, what he needs, snap a pictures or record a small video and send it. No need to send it to any TV channel or to any respective, you know, media channel, but he needs only to post it in his Facebook page, Twitter, YouTube. I'm giving examples only, or share it with any friend who is good in these things. Okay. So what will happen? In a few seconds, it will be worldwide.
Viral, it goes viral. That's right.
If you see, if it will go viral. So things have changed now. Even government, in dealing with this matter, they are, you know, what we call facing a lot of challenges. But for me, I see this as an advantage. I know there are a lot of disadvantages, but there is an advantage. Why? To what we call spread reality, what's really going on, what is really happening. You can see a lot of lives have saved due to the social media. A lot of issues that should be go under table have solved because of social media. I see it in this case, social media now is an advantage for saving life, for spreading information, and most important thing is for increasing the social alertness. Now we are not talking more about social responsibility. Within COVID-19 and post-COVID-19, we will be talking more about social alertness, because COVID-19 proved that there is no weak or strong countries.
Mm.
There are societies are ready to adapt and get stronger, and there are societies are not ready to adapt and not ready to get stronger. You have seen a lot of countries developed with high technology, but still struggling a lot in terms of social responsibility and social alertness. So social media is playing a good role in what in discovering a lot of issues related to social injustice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So quickly, I would want Dr. Kule Taiwo to just shed a little bit of light on what is the role of the academia, or the academics, or lecturers, or teachers, or tutors in terms of enlightenment, in terms of moving forward at with the subject of social injustice, and you know you have the floor.
Oh, fine. Thank you very much. Yeah. Uh, well, just like Dr. Simon said, it's a very sensitive topic, and I will, for me, I'll still like to look at things from the from the teacher's perspective as an educator. Um, Over here in the US, we have, as Dr. Osama rightly mentioned, we have that issue of social alertness. Uh, and for me, it's not just social alertness alone. It has to do with each racial, social, or shall I say cultural orientation. The perspective to which people look at things differs. And here in the US, you, as educators, you have to be very careful because you either tend to the left or to the right, and I'm talking about the political divide.
Mm.
And experience is different. The way a race, the white race or the black race, look at things are different. So, as an educator in the class, um, even an educator it could be recorded. Let me say, for example, when we went online live, we were using a technology whereby captures, just like Dr. I think it was Dr. Jimmy that mentioned it, that we should be able, or Dr. Kalawi, that we should be able to use a technology in house that's actually particular to an institution. We use a particular technology at Trainer. It's called the Eco 360 that captures, we'll be in the class, and then we'll be able to offer not just asynchronous but synchronous lecture at the same time,
Mm. Okay.
whereby you have students could be anywhere. If any student misses it, you can always go back there and listen to the lecture. It's live, you know. And there were some pushback to it. Why? Um, because you use several examples in class to explain a concept, a paradigm, or a model. Um, and most of the liberal arts professors pushed against it. Why? Because when you're using examples in the class, they can actually go left or right. And if they're not very careful, their statements or examples, or how shall I say, anything they use as a case study could be recorded live and it could act as an evidence against them, you know? Um, so that's why I say it's when it comes to social justice, the role of technology, you got cautions on every side. However, just like Dr. Sama rightly mentioned,
Okay.
with the tip of a finger, you have you have anybody could be an average journalist now. Just record it and push it out there. But for as an educator, um, I'll say that our role is to educate and for us to endeavor to make sure that even in history, history tilts to the left or to the right, depending on the perspective. And something I've understood with culture is this: with my own cultural orientation, history is actually told from the perspective of the person
Because,
telling the story. Yeah,
okay.
exactly. Nobody tells the perspective of the person of the side that actually lost the battle. Um, so I'll say this: in terms of social alertness, social justice, it's left for us educators to to teach right and to pass down the knowledge appropriately, because we are not just preparing students to be experts in the area to which we are teaching them. You look at after the Senate sits on, they ratified the list of graduates. They say they've been found worthy in work, teaching and work, and then I mean in learning and work, character. So we should be able to focus on what is right, what is fair in the society, because there's always going to be boiling points. And when people get to that, like the Black Lives Matters has always been there, but the pandemic actually just brought them out because people lost their jobs, people could not be um, at school, you know, and there was a tipping point. People were just pissed off, so people that do not really contribute to the rally, they just got out there. It's the end of the world to them. You understand? And the push was there. So my way of looking at it is like, as educators, we just have to focus on doing our whole piece uh, of of the job that we have to do, teach right, and endeavor to stay in the middle, ask questions, and let the student debate about it. Use examples that does not lean to the left or to the right, but it's just objective, and we'll see where it goes from there. Thank you.
Wonderful. So I will go. Before I let Dr. Ladipo um, talk. I will just want to give Dr. Osaru and Dr. Jimmy 30 seconds each max to just, if there's something new they want to add to that. If not, we'll move to the next panelist. So Dr. Osaru.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Hector. I beg to take 1 minute. Okay, I will just take over from where Dr. Kunle left it off. He spoke very well, by the way. Yeah. Okay, so he talked, I mean, during graduation, the cliche we hear is that having been found worthy in character and learning. Okay, so COVID-19 has changed the standards and the benchmark which we would use for these two words, character and learning. And that to a large extent would affect the society in general. So if we're judging character, we're going to be judging the evolving of some essential soft skills. And future employers will even be looking out for these essential soft skills: time management, effective communication, emotional intelligence. These are the essential soft skills that are evolving to be the new benchmarks for character of students and educators and to the larger society. And when we talk about social injustice, it's a far-reaching phenomenon in which it's actually very sensitive to a lot of people. But I will say that it's individualistic and things are still evolving. It is hard to find a particular niche where we will box it into a corner. But for now, things are evolving and people are tending to move with the crowd, but not necessarily all the time that the crowd is right. Okay, so basically what I try to say there is that there's been a change that a lot of people are not noticing in character and learning. And because university is a central point that is gotten from the root words unity and diversity, is a central point where a student gets in and is educated academically, politically, socially, spiritually, in different sense. That is not going to be the case anymore going forward. because now all institutions are scared. Even post-COVID-19, people will still be scared. Is this going to happen again? So you're going to find a lot of, especially private institutions, deploying their resources towards online education. And so we're going to lose a lot of the traditional things that we think about when it comes to learning. Okay, I will stop here. I've already taken more than 1 minute. Thank you very much.
Dr. Wokola?
All right, thank you one more time, Dr. Hector. Well, talking about social injustice, the Nigerian context is very unique and it's a bit complicated because let me just further 10 seconds is short, but one that comes readily to mind was NSAS protest. NSAS protest that took place in October. Now, while this remains so strong on my memory was because the day the Lekki massacre took place was actually my birthday, October 20. It was a very sad birthday for me. How, innocent protesters were actually open fired on. Well, a lot of sides, but I wouldn't like to go into details. But
let's leave the conversation on academics.
Let me just say, yes, that's what I'm trying to say. So let me just tell you how I interpreted that, and that is the way I feel most Nigerians should. So looking at that, one can see that there is a lot of gap in the society. We can see that there is still a lot. We still have a long way to go developmentally as a nation. So for me, what that event did to me, because there is no time that event will be mentioned that I would not remember because it happened on my birthday. So that day, what happened to me was there was a strong onus on me to contribute my quota in making Nigeria a better society. And how do I decide to do that? I decided to do that as an educator. When I teach in class, I don't just teach what the curriculum expects. I don't just teach the course content, but I also speak to the conscience of every student that I teach, that in any area where you find yourself, be the best you can be, deliver the best value. I believe that, deliver the best value, give your best, make sure that you are not doing just what you are paid for, go the extra mile. That way, I believe we are laying solid values, we're laying solid moral foundations for our society, and we believe that better people will emerge. So that is my take on that.
Thank you very much for that. So again, we as individuals, we have our responsibility, our roles to play as an individual, as a family, as a society, and as a nation in order to move forward, in order to step into the new age. So I would now like to hand the floor back to Dr. Oladipo. He had network issues earlier. So before he left, he was talking about research and development, the African perspective and everywhere else. And he was talking about taking responsibility as well. So I would also like to add that research and development, especially in a place like Malaysia, where I can believe Dr. Osama would be familiar with, Dr. Osaro would be familiar with, the government on a yearly basis release billions of ringgit Malaysia into several tertiary institutions in order to execute researches that will directly or indirectly influence their community. And Dr. Oladipo was mentioning earlier that some of their team members had to go on to collect loans. These are Nigeria and Egypt, I believe you mentioned, are the two countries only in the entire Africa that has a COVID vaccine that is recognized by the by the WHO on the current vaccine list. This is a huge development, a huge achievement, accomplishment that I believe is not lauded enough. Like my own country is contributing to the fight against COVID-19. I need that to be on the global platform. I need the government to, the government is not doing enough. So is it a matter of lack of publicity? Is it a matter of not going to the right channel? What is it? And proceed with what you were saying earlier as well. Over to you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, like I said, there is a structure on ground in Nigeria. Like I work in a private institution that doesn't qualify or have access to the government grant application platform.
Okay.
So government still put money down for universities and they make application, but private universities are excluded.
I see.
And how many private universities? So if I have to drive my research, I have to look for alternative way of driving my research. I
Mhm.
think it's recently they just agree that if you have a public and a private PI coming together, it is likely it will be funded. Even like this one, there was a call for funding for COVID. We submitted a proposal based on Professor Luki from Lautech. Up till now, we are yet to hear anything. And luckily, our plenary results have been published in good journals. I think one is Medicine on Law by Elsevier. The other one is In Silico Pharmacology by Springer Nature. Those are the preliminary results before we got there that were published in those journals, at least. But to crown it all, the government cannot do it alone. We
Okay.
need private investors to come in into research, to fund research for us. One thing again is that some people have been so bad in the past that money will be given to them and they will not do the job. So, and to actually know who is the true person is a challenge. So that's why we are exploring our possible means that let's do the developmental stage with every resource, all the resources that we have, so that they can see that we're actually doing something. The candidate we are talking about is known by the federal government of the country. As at last week, I saw them in the NTA news commending our effort, commending our team. But what we are trying to say is that this should go beyond commending only. There should be financial commitment to it so that more can be. We have Lassa in Nigeria. We don't have a vaccine for it. Our team currently have 3 vaccine candidates for Lassa too, just for us to start the animal trial. So what we're just trying to do is that we also are deploying the new technology to solve our immediate problem, which we believe that we can. I believe we can do it. There's nothing that cannot be done with God, because God has really been helping us so far, and we are open to collaboration. Like Prof said, we don't have anything to hide because we didn't do any magu. We didn't. We are straightforward. Our procedures are there. It can be verified. It can be scrutinized anytime. Our hands are clean. So the research team is a team that welcomes collaboration from every part of the world. Because I will tell you that the team is a multidisciplinary team. Like I said, we have doctors, we have pharmacists, we have nurses, we have medical lab person, we have psychologists, we have biologists. We just an holistic team member so that we can see, because we have what we call multidisciplinary team research team, and that's the best, so that everybody contributes from diverse knowledge and it makes this team very, very superb. Even I can tell you that there is a company called City High. They are one of the powerful clinical trial companies in the US. We've had meetings together with them, and they have shown their interest that if Paraventure want to do any clinical trial in US, they are ready to go with us.
Wow.
So we are still discussing with them. So, and those are the bold steps that we are trying to take and to make sure that we put Nigeria in light, then we can also solve our problem. We can solve our problem.
Wonderful.
We can solve our problem. So, but one thing I'll just try on this platform in this COVID, like you have said, is that our students this day should go outside beyond the school curriculum. The school curriculum is the foundation. There are some soft skills that you cannot acquire in school. And that is why we talk about internship, we talk about height. I know in US, a lot of students go on internship. They go to companies to learn how things are done, to learn. So we should encourage in Africa too. Don't wait until you are going for your IT 6 months. Once you have a break, within the first, second semester, or third semester, you can go for an intern to go to the place and learn and see how things are done. By the time you come back to class, you apply that knowledge to the theory that they're teaching you, and you're able to solve. It can be a problem, and you're actually to be solving it. We talk about something. We should train our students also to be a critical thinker. There's one of our intern at our institute from India. They just called me a day and told me, "So, are you a critical thinker?" I said, "Please give me some minutes to answer this question." I needed to dig deep to know how to think critically and how to think deep and how to solve a problem. Because if you don't have the ability to think deep, you're not able to identify a problem and you don't know how to go about it by solving the problem. And look at this era now. Everybody, somebody from US, somebody from Malaysia. I have a project that is ongoing now in COVID-19. We have like 15 of us that are on the portal. But I have people from US, Ghana, Malaysia, all of us. We are there working together, having meeting, have another meeting today by 2 o'clock now. Having a meeting, you have the government created. It allows you to work and it enhances the quality of the research of output. I just hope so that from your hand, this kind of webinar will be a continual process that can help our upcoming students, and we also can learn. I have learned from Dr. Osea, I've learned from Dr. Kunle, I've learned from Dr. Jimmy. So I just pray that this new era we are going to, all of us will be updated and be recent to impact the appropriate knowledge and skill to our students, because we are developing a nation.
Okay, wonderful.
So the type of student we have now, with the type of student we have now, will determine how our nation will look like tomorrow, because we can never be there for life. We have to pass the baton to others. So we have to train them with all our might. And this work is not about money, it's about passion. Okay. So God will help us.
All right, thank you very much. So this whole webinar will be ending in another 15 minutes max. So now we will open the floor before we have our panelists answer the last question. Is this the dawn of a new era? So before they answer that question, I would open the floor to our participants that want to ask a question or make a contribution. You will have only 20 seconds max to do so. So if you would like to contribute, you can leave a message or raise your hand, and I would grant you access.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Dr. Raji. Proceed.
Good job, Dr. Hector, and all the panelists. I think we've enjoyed you all, and we appreciate your contributions. My question mainly will be directed to the very last speaker. I think that is Dr.
Oladipo.
What's his name? Dr. Oyedepo. So I actually I wonder if you can share your opinion on, or your experience on reshaping the public perception, or I should say level of awareness in terms of using this vaccine of a thing, because I believe developing efficient vaccine is one thing. Another thing is for people to believe in it.
And accept
we
it.
have been seeing a lot of we have been seeing a lot of stuff online, even public figures saying a lot of things and driving a lot of campaign against vaccine. So what do you think can be done in situation like this, that public opinion is very, very crucial, right? I don't think medical means would be enough to solve this problem, right? So behavior and attitude also have a lot to do. We have a lot to do in that level as well. So do you have any experience or any suggestion on how we can reshape people's perception towards taking the vaccine when it's eventually ready? Thank you.
Yeah, I think from my little experience and the work of vaccination, the populace need to be orientated, full orientation about the safety.
All right. You're back online. Please proceed.
I'm back. I'm back. Yeah, yeah. If you look at US, even if you take the vaccine, the non-pharmaceutical method is still recommended to be used. And the worry that people had was initially was that the vaccine that is being promoted now, the method that was used, this is the first time that they are using
Yeah.
for that kind of belief. I believe that the government has a role to play. The way the government has handled the COVID-19, that's what made people not really believe that the vaccine will be effective. So the presentation matters, and that's what they have done the other time. That when they want to take the vaccine, they will be shown on the TV that they are taking the vaccine. But let me tell you, sir, somebody asked that what's the assurance the vaccine they are giving them? What if they've withdrawn ordinary water? So it's just only the needle and syringe I'm seeing. So what's the assurance that it's the vaccine they are really taking? So it means that like this, our National Orientation Agency have to come online and orientate everyone about this vaccine. No doubt there is no perfect system. Everything has its own side effects. You understand that there was some they say you don't need to take the second dose, you have to take the second dose. It's a new disease, it's a new infection, it's a new virus. We are trying to understand. We cannot understand SARS-CoV-2 immediately. It's going to take some time before we have a full understanding of the virus. Look at HIV. That's just the bottom line, the basic truth about the virus. We are still trying to understand the virus. So as more as we come out, things unfold. You can say about the fixed mask, sorry for digression, that US said that a single layer fixed mask is not enough. It's not enough. So, but acceptance of the vaccine, the responsibilities lies on the government, our religious leaders, community leaders, and some of us that are well educated. I just pray that God will help us through this period.
Okay. And I also want to add to that also, because I just received a question from someone who wants to remain anonymous. He was asking about the efficiency or the efficacy of the vaccine. What is the guarantee that if people accept this vaccine, it is going to be effective? Because as was reported by the Washington Post, 2 lawmakers test positive for coronavirus after receiving both doses of the vaccine. That is Representative Stephen Lynch and another. So basically, they have both received the 2 doses of vaccine, and yet they got the COVID-19 again. Are they not supposed to be immune to the virus after taking the vaccine? What is going on there?
Now, let me come in. We should understand the mechanism at which vaccine works. Each vaccine has a mode of action. So the vaccine that was designed, some vaccines are only there to stimulate antibodies.
Okay.
Which could be memory lasting one of the cell. Some are also designed to have what we call cytolytic effects. It means if there are other cells that have been infected, the vaccine has a capability of destroying the cell. So I don't want to go into scientific details because each designer of each vaccine has one aim at the back of their mind before designing the vaccine. So the mode of the action of the vaccine will determine. Then let me chip this in. There's a virus called dengue virus. The problem we have with dengue virus that we don't have the vaccine is that we have serotypes. So even if you have a vaccine for serotype 1, you take it, you are not protected for serotype 2. Okay. So those ones that have been getting the vaccine, we are not sure, maybe they were being infected by a recent mutant that the previous vaccine does not cover for.
Okay.
So that is what I said, that a time will come that vaccine will be localized, that vaccine will be developed based on what is circulating in your region until they discover what we have a universal vaccine. Like they are working out on influenza virus now. They want to have a universal vaccine for influenza virus that will cover all the serotypes. So I want to assume that it's likely that the vaccine did work, but they were not protected, maybe for the new strain that they were infected with. And another thing is that even if they have taken the previous vaccine, when they are infected newly, the disease will not be as serious as when they have not been vaccinated. So they have a level of protection compared to when they have not been vaccinated before.
Uh-huh. So basically, the vaccine does not give you 100% immunity. And depending on
exactly
what strain of, or what mutation of the virus that you come in contact with after taking the vaccine.
Exactly.
Wow. So basically, that will also start raising confusions among individuals willing to take the vaccine, because what if the vaccine you are about to give to me, you developed it 2 months ago, and now there's a new, there's a new mutation of the virus. How do I know?
That's why I said that. That's why I said that what is applicable to influenza virus is what will always be done to in COVID-19. That vaccines will be updated often and often. You can have the last news that Oxford is going back again now to update the vaccine that they have to capture the ongoing circulating strain. So there is no problem about that. As long as we have new strain, definitely it will be captured in the new vaccine that you want to be given. And maybe you are traveling to a particular area of the country, there will be a particular vaccine for COVID-19 that you should take based on the strain that is circulating in that place before you enter that country. That part of the traveling requirement for you to be. It's nothing to worry about. Even before COVID-19, we have some group of people that are vaccine hesitant, they're anti-vax. They don't like people taking vaccine before. So, and those groups are still there. And one of the videos that we see on social media, some are incomplete video. They will just cut a section and show to us as if people that got the vaccine just died or anything like that and things like that. Everybody reacts. I have stories of those who reacted to the last meningitis and yellow fever vaccine that they just did now. So some of those things are expected, but the population will be lower than the general population. When we have it happen 1 in 1,000, scientifically it might not be significant. So statistics is there in those effects too. Not that we just look at because it happened to somebody, so it means everybody does not have it. Then the health condition of individual at the point of getting the vaccine is very, very important. And people don't understand something. When clinical trial is being done, the group of people that are being involved in the clinical trial will determine the type of people that will take the vaccine. That they are expanding the group of people for the clinical trial. And don't forget that this even the vaccine is emergency use. The word emergency use, it's an emergency. It's not fully just to avert something. So it means studies are still ongoing in order to show that, oh, at this stage now, it is perfectly, then that will have full endorsement. But it is better than none. We have to save life.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I'll take one last, I'll take one question from a Mr. Agboji David Ojadale from PCU, Badon. The question is, the new normal demands that we embrace technological learning. And is there any word of advice to students who are from disadvantaged background, who may not have all the access to the facilities and connectivity? So inadvertently, even if a student who wants to take responsibility or wants to improve themselves but do not have access or technological empowerment due to maybe their own personal background, are there any word of advice for such students? So I would like Dr. Osaro to answer, to respond to this student, if you may. Hello.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Hector. Are you referring to the question by David Ojolade?
That's right.
About the new normal. Okay. Sadly, this question is kind of a difficult one to tackle. If you know the peculiarity of the situation being referred to back home in Nigeria. Okay, because you know, education is the education industry is very fragile. It is one that you should not toy with. If we compromise quality in education, it is bound to affect every other industry, irrespective of any. And that is part of the problem I guess many countries are facing. Okay, the solution, which might not be a sweeping one, but I am thinking that is the solution we should, I mean, in the long run get to, is to strengthen our institutions.
Okay.
When I say strengthen our institutions, I mean strengthen our financial institutions, strengthen the governmental institution, to see education sector, investment in education as an investment in the nation. So what I mean is that there's going to be a lot of money put into infrastructural development and in the education sector to meet up with the challenges. But the problem is that this money put into education sector, sadly, the students would be the one to bear the brunt of it. So what I mean is that it's only the rich that can afford it. Now, if the government and our institutions are strengthened, then it doesn't have to be the case. You will find out that students can easily access loans to get educational, for example, a laptop or a good internet connection to study. But if the educational institutions are not, I mean, if the institutions are not strengthened, students cannot get loans easily, then if we want to accommodate students from disadvantaged backgrounds, we would have to compromise on quality of education, which becomes a problem. And that is what we see. So the long-term solution will be to make financial, loans and finances available to anybody at any time from whatever background to access and get quality education. That should be the long-term goal. If we do not do this and we try to use other means, we will compromise academic quality.
So
this is my take about this.
You came from a government perspective. So the government have to invest in education more than they already are in order to improve quality of education. So because of time, I'll just like to quickly address that question as well. So I would also want to come from the institution itself, the perspective of the institutions, or the responsibility of universities or institutions, and then the responsibility of the students. I earlier mentioned my academic experience in, I did my first degree in University of Utara, Malaysia. So as a computer science student, per week, you are expected to spend 50% of your time hands-on, and then the other 50% in class doing theory. You know, but coming here in Africa, the curriculum has not gotten to that platform yet. And as a student there in Malaysia at the time, I could survive without having a laptop because we had 24 hours access to computer labs, both at your hostel, both at your campus, at your faculty, at recreational centers. There are computer labs easily accessible to you. So all you need to do is have a flash drive. You start your work here. When you're tired, maybe you want to go to the hostel, you go to the hostel and put your flash drive in the computers available at the hostel, and you continue your homework or your assignments. Likewise, when you go to faculty, you know. So it is the duty or the responsibilities of universities to take control and equip themselves with technologies and shape their curriculum in order for these categories of students to be able to thrive. Now, lastly is the student itself. So even a student who is placed in the best technologically advanced nation, who does not have the interest or the willpower or the zeal or the enthusiasm to want to grow, would still not grow. So a student who does not have that capacity, but I was having a discussion with Dr. Awokola the other day about computer science and their students and their zeal to want to grow. Students should look to acquire skills by themselves, irrespective of the curriculum, So I hope this answers your question for Mr. David Aboji. So you also have a role to play in that aspect. Dr. Kule Taiwo, do you want to add to that? See you raising your hands.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Hector. I just like to, I wouldn't spend more than 30 minutes on that.
30 seconds.
I just wanted to respond to, Mr. David on that. There is something we call the facilitating condition. The facilitating condition has to come from the institution, from the government, for the students. Now, those facilitating conditions for you to be able to thrive technologically and learning is not there. So what Dr. Hector is trying to say that students have to be responsible is that you have to drive in that energy yourself to go the extra mile. I remember way back in LAUTECH, people used to be on the line for them to have access to the computer lab for us to program. You understand? It just implies it. Now, those facilitating condition is not provided by the government as you have it in Malaysia and the US. So it now comes down to you. And then when it comes to even politically, you have to hold the political officers accountable. Questions that need to be driven or asked during political campaign is like, what are you going to do regarding providing facilitating conditions for us from the grassroots level? You talk to the councillor, what are you going to do? Something that was done here in the US during when the pandemic started was like, if you're an high school student, if you are a university student, the mobile carrier that you are using gives you free bandwidth for you to be able to. So they are being socially responsible, and we have to hold carriers both in Nigeria also and other places in Africa socially responsible at the same time. So that gives you opportunity that you are verified as a student, as a college student, and then that provision should be able to be given to you. We have to hold all these people responsible for it, both on the political hand, you're talking of the government and the private sector also. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. All right, so we'll be ending the session with the last responses from each panelist. So Dr. Oladipo Olawole, he needs to be in another, he has excused us as he has an urgent matter to attend to. So in order for us not to waste any more time, is this the dawn of a new era? Yes or no, and why? So I would want to start with Dr. Osama. If you can tell us, is this the dawn of a new era?
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Hector. I will be in short saying that there are a lot of signs based on what we have discussed, what you said, what all the speakers said, and based on the questions. See, in the questions, there are a lot of challenges. If you see the questions content, there are a lot of challenges. Based on the discussion and the questions content, I can see that there are a lot of signs of a new era. It's like we are in a time of like fight or flight on an individual level and on nations level. COVID-19 have given a lot of challenges to many countries and continents. So it's challenges for some countries and it's opportunities for a lot of countries. I think for African countries, whether we like it or not, we are going to the new era. and the signs are there. Maybe it's from God, the signs start with COVID-19, because every few decades or 1 century, a new era will come. So people have to go to a new circumstances and new settings and so on. Based on the setting, I see if, for example, those developing countries, particularly in Africa, will not have a new system to adapt with the situation, to ride the wave, right, to catch up the developed and modern countries, we will not have a better chance than this. Though COVID-19 is challenge, but I see it as a big opportunity.
Thank you very much, Dr. Osama, for that. I like the word you use. We are in a time of fight or flight. If you want to survive, you need to fight. Okay, over to you, Dr. Awokola Jimmy. Is this the dawn of a new era? Yes or no, and why?
All right, thank you, Dr. Hector. Yes.
Hello, are you with us? All right, before he comes back in, I think he's having a network issue. Dr. Osama. Okay, just hold on. I think he's back on.
All right.
Yeah, hello, Dr. Hector.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so like I said, yes, it's the dawn of a new era, if the truth be told. And the pandemic has actually opened our eyes to see that it is the end of an era and the beginning of another. Even though we might be operating the two alongside each other, but we must, within our consciousness, we must entertain in our consciousness that certain things have come to stay. And even though in some parts of the world, the change might be different from some other parts of the world, but the truth of the matter is that anyone that wants to thrive in this time must accept in their consciousness that it's the dawn of a new era, and they must begin to adjust their lifestyle, and they must begin to embrace skills and practices that will make them relevant in the new field of play. For example, one thing that is that I want to mention that is worthy of note is that remote working has come to stay. Whether we like it or not, in human resource management, remote working has come to stay. So now everybody must learn to work, both in the brick and mortar settings as well as in the remote settings. So it is the truth of the matter. It is the dawn of a new era.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jimmy Awokola, for that. I will open the floor to Dr. Osaru, okay, to answer that question.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Hector. Absolutely. This is the dawn of a new era. And I mean, this goes to everybody here, students and other category of listeners. This is an opportunity for you to carve a niche for yourself. I need you to reflect on the reality principle, which says, see the world the way it is and not the way you wish it were. And only then can intelligent decisions be made about your future. So a lot of people are going to spend time wishing things, wishing there is no COVID-19, wishing it goes off immediately. Do not waste your time wishing. Just start to prepare yourself for the future, okay? And the best way to prepare yourself for the future is to accommodate and acquire skills that will be relevant in the future. Even if everybody is gonna have to change, but not everybody will change at the same pace. So the speed of change is gonna be the single factor that will differentiate one person from the other person. So start now to acquire things that will make you relevant in the future. I'm just gonna share the fact that in the future, employers will be looking out for some certain skills, which will be compromised at the moment in our learning. And those skills are skills such as accountability, collaboration and teamwork, influential and inspirational leadership. So, as you learn, as you live your lives on a daily basis going forward, uh, although physically remote, but always stay mentally connected. Uh,
Thank you.
okay, so thank you very much. I'll stop there.
Thank you for that. So before I open the floor to Dr. Kulit, I want to answer that, and that will be the end of the whole webinar series. I'd want to add to that. I like what Dr. Awukola said. It is the end of an era and the beginning of another. And Dr. Osama said, this is the time for flight or fight. And Dr. Osaro said, this is the time where we need to accommodate and acquire skills that will make us relevant moving forward. And I wouldn't have put it any better than the way they have. Yes, in my own personal opinion as well, it is the dawn of a new era, because now virtual conferencing that used to be is a must now. And I am from a virtual reality background, multimedia, and now we did like my own thesis. I did my thesis on multimodal interactivity, trying to simulate and develop virtual environment, put it inside in a virtual environment, and use the head-mounted display, HMD. You put it on you, you wear it, and you can be in that virtual environment and interact with it. So the future is moving more and more now in that direction, where you may no longer have to be in your classroom to be in your classroom. All you just need to have is the necessary devices. You put it on, you will see your classmates, you will see your environment, you will see your lecturers, you will take your lecture notes, you will interact with the world virtually as though you were physically. So that is where the future right actually is right now. So I also concur with what the other panelist has also highlighted as well. So last but not the least, I would open the floor to Dr. Kule Taiwo to answer that question as well.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hector. I couldn't agree more. It's the dawn of a new era. And I'm still going to stay in that my little comfort zone of there, looking at it from the academic and from the faculty perspective. We are getting into an era whereby I know oftentimes I know we faculty, we teachers, we actually want to just focus on the learning objectives of the syllabi, and um, when it comes to assessment, then we tend to focus on the learning outcome. But we are getting to an era now whereby uh, the teachers also and the me faculties are now being pushed um, to do what? To incorporate learning outcome in the learning objectives for students. So we are actually getting to a new phase entirely, and based on the fact that at the end of the semester, students actually tend to remember like 30 to 40% of the things to which they were taught. And uh, now so many there are a lot of changes in education, teaching style, the pedagogy, and the rest like that.
Okay.
Here in the US, we actually there's a lot of shift from the 16 week schedule to 8 week schedule. You know, and that actually push people to focus so much on the learning outcome, what students are going to take out to use out there. And I just go back to what Dr. Sarah and Dr. Osama and the rest of the professors on this series I've been talking about. So we're going to be driving our students for excellence in a very new dimension entirely. And it's challenging to us faculty at the same time. But at the same time, it's expected of our students going forward to be able to catch up with the pace, because faculty will be moving at a different pace going forward. I know there are a lot of challenges for us to overcome in Africa. The same way you have a lot of challenges to be overcome here in the US also. So I think it's just a call out to each and everyone. Um, Education is going to be changing forever. Research is going to be changing forever. I do not think, like for example, that this year that we're going to be allowed to go for any in-person conferences, academic conference like we used to go for, because
Yeah,
now you've got everything
it's very
online.
online.
So,
That's right.
uh, especially for me as a program chair, I'm not going to allow that this year because they can actually do online. It saves me a lot of money. Um, so many things are going to be changing, and students should expect it, faculty should expect it, and the rest of the world also should expect it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that. So curriculum needs to adapt, needs to change, needs to evolve in order to uh, better cater for the needs of now and tomorrow. Okay, so that will be all from us all. Thank you very much for our kind and patient audiences for participating and being part of the entire event. Thank you very much, our panelists, for taking the time to come and share your opinions on the subject matter. Uh, this marks the end of this webinar. God bless you all. You may now proceed to leave the room as you please. Thank you.